So we all appear differently, and but we have the same kind of basic need. And that basic need is to be happy, right? And it may sound maybe a bit, ridiculous, but it's actually true. No, we basically want to be happy, no matter how we look, how we are, from where we are, and so on. So, good question would be if there's any science that is trying to achieve exactly that purpose. Well, and the video is going to be exactly about this. There is one science that talks about that. Probably it's not the only one in the world, but this one is actually also very unique. And we'll start from it by introducing like three friends. Let's make a little story about them. They're Vicky, Pete, and Carl, and they kind of look different. They have different qualities and so on. But as I said, they have the same basic quality, which is to be happy. They have the same surge, same yearning, you may say, the same need to feel comfortable, secure, to be happy, to be peaceful, to do what they love, and so on. And however they will define this happiness, there's also this science that is trying um, to give a manual for your individual nature. So we can say um, about it as a science of our nature, because it looks at the person as someone unique and individual, which by having, for example, a different body type, also has different needs on a physical level. For example, they like different foods, or they would like to listen to different music, right? Something that is good for one person, like by saying good, I mean beneficial for their health, for example, will not necessarily be good for a person of a different nature. So, how do they describe that nature? That is very interesting, and let's focus that first video exclusively on this. Um, this science that I'll introduce, I'll put the name of it. It is called Ayurveda. And Ayurveda is made up of two words, this Ayur and Veda, where one of them, the Ayur, signifies life in short, and the other is the knowledge. So that's why uh, Ayurveda can be known as a science of life, science of knowledge, science of the nature, science of our own nature. I don't mean by saying nature only the nature like forests and mountains and so on, but exactly what it is to be a human being, what it is to experience life, right? Um, the the life, the knowledge of life, for example. So it tries um, to describe somehow different natures of human beings, as there are 8 billions probably already of human beings in the globe, and they all have their unique physiology, their unique psychology, and so on. They have unique experiences. They have developed in a different way from different cultures and from different geography, like I mean climate places, right? Like that. So how to describe them using some basic tools? This is not very easy. So what Ayurvedic perspective proposes is to give it five elements, and these elements are called the space, the one that is the most subtle of all them. Then the other element, which is the air. Another one that will go into something more hot But as you see, the order of these elements is that they go from the most subtle to the denser and denser ones. For example, the fire, it already has some color. Water, it already has some substance, right? It's hard to keep fire in a bottle, for example. Or you can of course keep air in the bottle as well. That's all right. But the water gives it a little bit more heaviness, for example. But it's also not as heavy as we would understand from this metaphoric element of the earth, for example. Earth, we could think of something very solid. And now the funny part, like the Ayurveda claims as a medical system that it is, because let's not forget that Ayurveda primarily it's a medical system. Right here, it's a medical system that originated in India. Let's say Indian. And ancient, right? Ancient medical system from India. And it says something like this, that if there is a balance of these 5 elements in us, the right balance, that the balance that is according to our nature as well, then we experience health. And when there is any imbalance in that proportion of the elements inside of our body, then we experience disease. That's something thought to be easy. For example, Ayurvedic example is like this. We have too much air in the intestine, let's say. That can mean that there is bloating. It may give a symptom like constipation. If there's too much fire in the stomach, for example, they may say of something like hyperacidity, something like it's a burning sensation, right? So they relate it automatically with the element of fire. And in this way, we can kind of by the qualities that are understood from this abstract ideas of the elements, we can look at each other, or for example, look at Vicky, Pete, and Carl, and say, well, maybe there's more water and earth in Carl than it is in Vicky, because Carl is quite chubby by nature and has thicker bones, like he's more heavy, and maybe there's more air and space in Vicky, because she's light, she's like moving around, talking a lot, and so on. And maybe Pete, for example, is a fiery guy, of a hot temperament, of being very decisive about what he's doing, being very fixed and project oriented, and so on. So they have different appearances, different mentality, different qualities, and all these Ayurveda is trying to explain with the use of the elements. But of course, it's not finishing only on such abstract terms. It's going very much into practical thinking of the medicines, of health, of stuff like cooking, doing massage, making treatments, and all these things that we're going to introduce in the next videos. And what is very, very interesting is that Ayurveda is getting more and more popular in the modern context. And quantum physicists, they say good stuff about it, that it's very, rational. It's not some magical system. So I think it would be very interesting to take a deeper look at that.